Maya's feet were killing her. She'd been standing for 9 hours straight, carrying heavy trays, forcing smiles at customers who barely looked at her. The evening shift at Romano's restaurant had been brutal. 3 different tables had complained about things that weren't even her fault, and her tips were terrible. She pulled her jacket tighter as she walked toward the bus stop. It was almost midnight, and the October wind cut right through her thin clothes. She really needed a new coat, but that wasn't happening anytime soon. Not with Mom's medical bills piling up higher every month. The bus arrived 10 minutes late as usual. Maya climbed aboard and sank into a seat near the middle, letting out a long breath. Her whole body ached. Tomorrow she'd have to wake up at 6 for her morning shift at the coffee shop, then rush to the restaurant by 3. And somehow she still needed to visit Mom at the care facility. 28 years old, and this was her life. 3 jobs, an empty apartment, and a growing fear that she'd never climb out of this hole. Sometimes Maya felt like she was invisible. People looked right through her, like she was just part of the scenery. Just another tired waitress in a city full of them. The bus lurched forward and Maya closed her eyes. Maybe she could grab a few minutes of rest before her stop. The steady rhythm of the engine was almost soothing, and despite the uncomfortable seat, she felt herself starting to drift off. She didn't see the delivery truck. The driver had been on the road for 14 hours, fighting to stay awake. He didn't see the red light. Didn't see the bus crossing the intersection. The sound of the crash was like an explosion. Metal shrieking against metal. Glass shattering everywhere. Maya felt herself thrown sideways, her head slamming against something hard. Pain erupted through her skull, sharp and blinding. Then everything went dark. When Maya woke up, the world was white. Bright, sterile white. Her head felt like it was splitting open, and there was a steady beeping sound that made everything worse. She tried to move, but her body felt heavy, disconnected. She's waking up. A woman's voice somewhere to her left. Maya's eyes struggled to focus. A hospital room. She was in a hospital. How did she get here? Maya, can you hear me? A nurse leaned over her, checking something on a monitor. The woman had kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a tight bun. Maya tried to speak, but her throat was too dry. She managed a small nod instead. You've been unconscious for 3 days, honey. You were in a bus accident. Do you remember? 3 days? The memories came flooding back. The bus, the sound of the crash. The pain, Maya's voice came out as a whisper. Am I okay? You're very lucky, the nurse said, adjusting Maya's pillow. Head trauma, some bruises, but nothing broken. The doctors are amazed, honestly. 4 other passengers weren't so fortunate. 4 other passengers. Maya felt sick. People had died and she'd survived. Why her? What made her so special? Over the next few days, doctors came and went. They ran tests, asked questions, shined lights in her eyes. Everyone kept saying how lucky she was. But Maya didn't feel lucky. She felt strange. Wrong somehow. It started small. Little things she couldn't quite explain. When the young nurse came to check her vitals, Maya suddenly knew she was worried about her daughter. Not because the nurse said anything, but Maya just knew. She could feel the woman's anxiety about college tuition, about whether her kid was making the right choices. When the doctor examined her, Maya sensed his frustration about his divorce. She knew he'd argued with his ex-wife that morning about custody arrangements. At first, she thought she was imagining things. Maybe the head injury was making her paranoid, causing her to read too much into people's expressions. But it kept happening. Every single person who entered her room brought a flood of information that Maya shouldn't have known. The orderly who brought her meals was saving money to propose to his girlfriend. The physical therapist was pregnant but hadn't told anyone yet. The janitor was grieving his father who died last month. Maya knew all of this without anyone saying a word. On her 5th day in the hospital, she finally understood. She wasn't imagining things. She wasn't reading body language or making lucky guesses. She could hear their thoughts. The realization hit her when Dr. Patterson came for his evening rounds. He smiled professionally and asked how she was feeling, but Maya heard something else entirely. A voice in her head that wasn't her own. Need to check her reflexes again. Strange that she recovered so quickly. Maybe we should order another brain scan. Did I remember to pick up those files from my office? Susan's going to be angry if I'm late again. Maya stared at him, her heart racing. His mouth wasn't moving, but she heard every word crystal clear. Doctor, she said carefully, did you forget to pick up some files? His smile faltered. What? Files from your office. And someone named Susan is waiting for you. Dr. Patterson's face went pale. How did you? I didn't say anything about that. Maya's hand started shaking. I know, I heard it. Heard what? Maya, I didn't mention any files. She couldn't explain it. Wouldn't even know where to start. When she tried to tell him about the thoughts she was hearing, Dr. Patterson's expression shifted from confusion to concern. He ordered a psychiatric evaluation. The psychiatrist who came the next day was gentle but skeptical. She asked careful questions about stress, about hallucinations, about whether Maya had a history of mental illness. Maya could hear the woman's thoughts too. Her clinical assessment, her notes about possible post-traumatic stress disorder. Nobody believed her, and maybe they were right not to. It sounded crazy even to Maya's own ears. They discharged her a week after the accident. The insurance company had approved all they were going to approve, and the hospital needed the bed. Maya was physically healed, they said. Her head injury had been severe but was recovering well. The hallucinations would probably fade with time and rest. But they didn't fade. Walking out of the hospital was overwhelming. The parking lot alone nearly brought Maya to her knees. Dozens of people, each one broadcasting their thoughts like radio stations she couldn't turn off. Worries about sick relatives. Excitement about new babies. Anger at bosses. Fear of test results. Love, hate, boredom, anxiety, everything all at once. It was like standing in a room where everyone was shouting, except the room was the entire world and the shouting never stopped. Maya stumbled to the curb and sat down hard, pressing her hands against her ears. It didn't help. The thoughts weren't coming through her ears. They were just there, inside her head, mixing with her own thoughts until she couldn't tell where other people ended and she began. She pulled out her phone and ordered a ride home. When the driver arrived, Maya climbed in the back and squeezed her eyes shut. She could hear him too, worried about gas prices, hoping for good tips today, wondering if his son had finished his homework. By the time she reached her tiny apartment, Maya was exhausted. She locked the door, drew the curtains, and curled up on her bed. In the silence and solitude, the voices finally quieted to a whisper. What was happening to her? The accident had changed something fundamental. It had broken something in her brain, or maybe awakened something that had always been there. Maya pulled her blanket over her head and tried not to think about tomorrow. About going back to work, back to crowds, back to a world full of voices she could no longer ignore. She was more alone than ever, and yet she'd never been less alone. She could hear everyone now, but nobody could hear her. 2 weeks after the accident, Maya had no choice but to go back to work. Her savings were gone, rent was due, and Mom's care facility needed payment. The ability to hear thoughts hadn't faded like the doctors promised. If anything, it had gotten stronger. She'd learned a few things in those 2 weeks. Staying home helped. Fewer people meant fewer voices. She'd also discovered that focusing on one person at a time made the noise more manageable. It was like tuning a radio to a specific station instead of hearing static from all of them at once, but she still wasn't ready for. Romano's restaurant during lunch rush, moment Maya walked through the kitchen doors. She was hit with a wall of thoughts. The chef was angry about a supplier's late delivery. The hostess was excited about a date tonight. The other servers were stressed about their table sections. It all crashed over Maya like a wave, and she had to grip the counter to steady herself. You okay? Tony, the manager, appeared beside her. His thoughts immediately flooded in. She looks terrible. Should I have given her more time off? Can't afford to be short-staffed today, though. I'm fine, Maya lied, forcing a smile. Just need a minute. She couldn't afford to lose this job. So she took a deep breath, tied her apron, and headed to her section. The lunch crowd was brutal. Every table brought new voices, new thoughts, new waves of information she didn't want. Table 3 was annoyed their food was taking too long. Table 5 was having an affair and worried about being seen together. Table 7 was celebrating a promotion while secretly dreading the extra work. Maya moved through it all like a zombie, taking orders, delivering food, refilling drinks. She kept her head down and tried to block out the noise. Then Mr. Chen, the owner, came rushing over. Maya, I need you to take the corner table. Mr. Hunt just arrived. Maya's stomach dropped. The corner table was reserved for VIPs only. Can't someone else? Something that might change everything. Maya couldn't stop thinking about Alexander Hunt. For 3 days, his business card sat on her kitchen counter. and she must have picked it up 100 times. Each time she'd stare at the phone number, wondering if she should call, wondering what she'd even say. Instead, she did what anyone would do in the age of the internet. She searched for him online. The articles painted a fascinating picture. Alexander Hunt, 43 years old, founder and CEO of Hunt Technologies. His company specialized in software solutions and had made him a billionaire by age 35. He was known for being brilliant but private. No scandals, no public relationships. Just work, work, and more work. The business magazines called him focused. The gossip sites called him cold. One article nicknamed him the lonely CEO because he never attended charity galas, never brought dates to events, and seemed to have no personal life whatsoever. But Maya had heard his thoughts. There was nothing cold about them. They'd been full of warmth, concern, and something that felt almost like longing. She dug deeper, searching for information about his past. That's when she found an old interview from 8 years ago. The journalist had asked about his background, and Alexander had given the briefest answer possible. I came from nothing, worked hard, got lucky. That's all there is to it. But buried in the article was one detail that made Maya's heart skip. Before founding Hunt Technologies, Alexander had legally changed his name. His birth name was Alexander Kim. Everyone else is slammed. You're the only one free right now. Mr. Chen was already walking away, his thoughts broadcasting clearly. Hunt's the richest guy in the city. Need to impress him. Maybe he'll invest in my restaurant expansion. Maya grabbed a menu and walked toward the corner table, dreading another flood of thoughts from some entitled businessman. But as she approached, something strange happened. The man sitting alone at the table was reading something on his tablet. He wore an expensive suit, perfectly tailored. His dark hair was styled neatly, and his face was serious, almost stern. He looked like he was in his early 40s, maybe. Successful, powerful, the kind of man who was used to people jumping when he spoke. But his thoughts, they were different. Most people's thoughts came at Maya like a fire hose, jumbled, chaotic, overlapping. This man's thoughts were clear, organized, like someone speaking in complete sentences instead of shouting fragments. And they stopped her cold. It's her. After all these years, it's really her. Maya stood frozen, menu in hand. What? The man looked up and their eyes met. For a second, something flickered across his face. Surprise, recognition, then it was gone, replaced by polite neutrality. Good afternoon, he said. His voice was deep and calm, but his thoughts continued, crystal clear. She doesn't recognize me at all. Why would she? I was nobody back then, just the poor kid in the back of the library. She probably doesn't even remember. Maya's mind raced. Library? What library? Did she know this man? I'll be your server today, she managed. Can I start you with something to drink? Just water, please. His outward demeanor was perfectly controlled, businessman, professional. But inside, his thoughts were in turmoil. She still has that same smile. Even tired, even struggling, she still tries to be kind to people. Some things never change. I wonder if she's happy. She doesn't look happy. Those circles under her eyes. Is she sleeping okay? Is someone taking care of her? Maya realized she was staring and quickly looked down at her notepad. I'll get that water right away. She practically ran back to the server station, her heart pounding. Who was this man? How did he know her? And why was he thinking about her like he'd known her for years? When she brought his water, his thoughts continued their strange one-sided conversation. Don't stare. Don't make it weird. She's just here doing her job. Maybe I should leave a good tip. No, that's patronizing. But she needs the money. I can tell. That jacket she's wearing has a tear in the sleeve. She's trying to hide it, but I can see it. Are you ready to order? Maya asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The salmon, please. Grilled, no sauce. As Maya wrote down his order, more thoughts flooded through. I should say something, anything. But what would I say? Hey, remember me from 15 years ago? You were kind to me once and I've thought about you ever since. She'd think I'm insane. I'm insane. Coming here week after week, hoping to see her again. Week after week? Maya's hand trembled slightly. This man had been coming here regularly, looking for her. She delivered his order when it was ready, and throughout the meal his thoughts painted a picture that made less and less sense. He remembered specific details about her. The way she used to wear her hair in high school. How she'd helped someone with an English paper. how she'd defended someone from bullies. Maya's head spun. High school was 15 years ago. She barely remembered most of those days. Life had been different then. Before Dad died, before money got tight, before everything fell apart. She'd been a different person. When the man finished his meal, he pulled out his wallet. Maya brought the check and he handed her his credit card without looking at the total. His thoughts whispered, I wish I could do more. I wish I could tell her that someone sees her, that she's not invisible, that everything she's struggling with right now, I could fix it all. But she doesn't even know who I am. The name on the credit card read Alexander Hunt. Maya's breath caught. Alexander Hunt, Hunt Technologies. She'd seen his name in business articles on billboards around the city. He was one of the richest men in the state. Tech genius, self-made billionaire. The media called him the lonely CEO because he never attended social events, never dated anyone publicly, never seemed to have friends or family. But how did he know her? When she returned with his card, there was a business card tucked into the receipt folder. Alexander's thoughts were firm, decided. Leave her the card. Give her the option. Don't force anything, just let her know there's help available if she needs it. Thank you for dining with us, Mr. Hunt, Maya said automatically. He nodded once, standing. The meal was excellent. Thank you. As he walked toward the door, his final thought drifted back to her. Stay safe, Maya. I'll always be watching over you, even if you never know it's me. Maya stood there holding his business card, her mind reeling. The card was simple, expensive paper. Just his name, a phone number, and the words Hunt Technologies, CEO. She flipped it over. On the back, written in neat handwriting, if you ever need anything. The lunch rush continued around her, but Maya couldn't move. She kept replaying his thoughts, trying to piece together the puzzle. A library. High school. Someone she'd helped. Someone she'd been kind to. And then, like a distant memory surfacing, she saw it. A skinny kid with thick glasses and worn-out shoes, always sitting alone in the library. What was his name? Alexander. Alexander Kim? The scholarship student everyone ignored. The one the popular kids made fun of because his clothes were too big, and his lunch was always leftovers. She'd brought him coffee once. Found him asleep on his textbooks late one afternoon. She'd helped him with an essay, hadn't she? And there was something about bullies. She'd told them to leave him alone when they'd mocked his shoes. Small things. Tiny gestures she'd completely forgotten about. But apparently Alexander Kim hadn't forgotten. He'd remembered everything. He'd changed his name, built an empire, become someone powerful and wealthy, and he'd been watching over her. Looking for her, caring about whether she was okay. Maya looked down at the business card again, her hands shaking slightly. The tip he'd left was $500. For a $30 meal, her coworker rushed past. Lucky you. That guy's loaded. Think he'll come back? Maya slipped the card into her pocket. I don't know, she whispered, but his thoughts had been clear. He came here regularly. He'd been searching for her, which meant he would come back. And next time Maya would be ready with questions. Because somehow, her forgotten act of teenage kindness had become something much bigger, something that had lasted 15 years, so it was him, the quiet kid from the library, the one she barely remembered. Maya sat back in her chair trying to recall more details. It was so long ago, high school felt like a different lifetime. She'd been a completely different person then. Her dad had still been alive. Her mom had been healthy. Money hadn't been such a constant worry. She remembered being generally kind to everyone. That was just how she was raised. But Alexander Kim specifically? The memories were fuzzy, scattered like puzzle pieces she couldn't quite fit together. That night, lying in bed, Maya did something she hadn't tried before. She held Alexander's business card and focused on it. Really focused. Since the accident, her ability had been random, uncontrollable. But maybe if she concentrated hard enough. At first, nothing happened. Then slowly, images began forming in her mind. Not her memories. His. She saw a teenage boy, skinny and awkward, sitting alone in the school library. He was wearing a jacket that was too big for him, obviously a hand-me-down. His glasses were taped at the corner where they'd broken. He had a textbook open in front of him, but he wasn't reading. He was watching someone across the room. Maya saw herself. Younger, with longer hair and a bright smile. She was sitting with friends laughing about something. The boy watched her with an expression that was part admiration, part sadness. like she was the sun and he was afraid to get too close. The memory shifted. It was late afternoon, and the library was nearly empty. The boy was asleep at a table, his head resting on a pile of textbooks. Maya saw herself approaching him, gently shaking his shoulder. She was holding 2 cups of coffee from the vending machine. "Hey, you okay? You've been here since lunch." The boy jerked awake, embarrassed. "Sorry, I was just..." "You looked exhausted. Here, I got you some coffee. It's not great, but it's caffeine." She remembered his face in that moment. The shock. The gratitude. Like no one had done something that simple for him in years. More memories flooded through. Maya helping him with an English essay, explaining metaphors while he listened like she was revealing the secrets of the universe. Maya defending him when 3 basketball players cornered him by the lockers, mocking his worn-out shoes. "Leave him alone. What's wrong with you?" "Come on, we're just joking around." "Well, it's not funny. Go find something better to do." The memory showed Alexander's face after she'd walked away. He'd stood there stunned, like he couldn't believe someone had stood up for him. But the strongest memory was the last one. Graduation day. Maya was surrounded by family and friends, celebrating. Alexander stood far away, alone, watching her. In his hand was his diploma and a worn notebook. He opened it and wrote something. Maya could see the words clearly. "I'm not good enough for her yet. But someday, I will be. Someday, I'll be someone she could be proud to know." The vision faded, and Maya found herself crying. She hadn't realized tears were streaming down her face. These weren't just memories. They were his entire motivation, his driving force. Everything he'd built, everything he'd achieved had been fueled by a promise to himself to become worthy of someone who'd shown him basic human kindness, and she'd completely forgotten about him. The guilt hit her hard. While she'd moved on with her life, dealing with her own problems, Alexander had carried these memories for 15 years. He'd transformed himself from that lonely kid into a powerful CEO. And somewhere along the way, he'd started watching over her from a distance. Maya wiped her tears and made a decision. She picked up her phone and dialed the number on the business card. It rang 3 times before a professional woman's voice answered. "Hunt Technologies, CEO's office. How may I help you?" Maya almost hung up. What was she doing? But she forced herself to speak. "Hi, my name is Maya Chen. I'd like to speak with Mr. Hunt, please." There was a pause. "Does Mr. Hunt know you?" "Yes. He gave me his card and said if I ever needed anything." Another pause, longer this time. "Please hold." Classical music played for what felt like forever. Maya's heart pounded. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she should just... "Maya?" Alexander's voice cut through her thoughts. He sounded surprised. Hopeful. Nervous. "Hi," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I hope I'm not bothering you." "No. Never. Is everything okay? Do you need something?" His immediate concern made her chest tighten. Actually, I was wondering if we could talk. In person, maybe?" Silence on the other end. Maya could almost feel his thoughts even through the phone. Surprise, confusion, careful hope. "Of course," he finally said. "When? Are you free today?" "I'll make time. Where would you like to meet?" They agreed on a coffee shop near her apartment. Neutral ground. Public. Maya hung up and immediately started panicking. What was she going to say? How did you even begin a conversation like this? 2 hours later, Maya sat in the corner of the coffee shop, nervously stirring her 3rd cup of tea. When Alexander walked in, she almost didn't recognize him. He wasn't wearing a suit, just jeans and a simple sweater. He looked more human somehow, less like a CEO and more like a regular person. He spotted her and walked over, his movements careful. "Thank you for calling," he said, sitting down across from her. Up close, Maya could see the resemblance to that teenage boy. The same dark eyes, the same careful way of moving, like he was used to making himself small. "I've been thinking about you," Maya said, deciding to be direct. Actually, I've been thinking about Alexander Kim. He froze, his coffee cup halfway to his lips. His thoughts crashed into her mind, panicked and jumbled. She knows. How does she know? Did someone tell her? Is she angry? Does she think I'm creepy? I'm not angry, Maya said quietly. Alexander's eyes widened. How did you? It's complicated. But I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. He nodded slowly, setting down his cup. Those memories from high school, the library, the coffee, standing up for you. Was I really that important? Or is this? She struggled to find the words. Is this some kind of obsession? Alexander flinched like she'd slapped him, but when he spoke, his voice was steady. You want the truth? Please. He looked down at his hands. I was invisible in high school. My family had nothing. My dad worked 3 jobs and still couldn't afford to buy me proper clothes. Kids made fun of me every day. Teachers barely noticed I existed. I was just nobody. He paused, and Maya waited. Then you showed up one day with coffee. You didn't have to do that. You didn't know me. You didn't owe me anything, but you saw that I was tired, and you cared. That's what changed everything. Not just the coffee, the fact that someone actually saw me. His eyes met hers, and Maya saw such raw honesty there that it took her breath away. I'm not obsessed with you, he continued. I don't know you, not really. But I've never forgotten what it felt like to be seen by someone when everyone else looked right through me. So yes, I kept tabs on you over the years, and when I learned you were struggling, I wanted to help. Maybe that's weird. Maybe it crosses a line. But it's the truth. Maya sat back, processing his words. His thoughts confirmed everything he was saying. There was no deception, no hidden agenda, just a man who'd never forgotten an act of simple kindness. You paid my mother's hospital bills, Maya said suddenly. Didn't you? Alexander's face showed his surprise. How do you know that? I know a lot of things, more than you'd believe. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 15 years hanging between them. Finally, Maya spoke. I don't remember you as well as you remember me. That's not fair to you, and I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize, but I want to get to know you now, the real you. Not the memories or the guilt or whatever this is, just you. For the first time since sitting down, Alexander smiled. It transformed his whole face, making him look years younger. I'd like that, he said. And in his thoughts, Maya heard the truth. Maybe this time she'll see me for who I am, not who I was or who I've become. Just me. Maya smiled back. Me too. Maya started working for Alexander 3 days after their coffee shop meeting. The job offer had come up naturally in their conversation. He needed an executive assistant, and she needed a salary that would actually cover her bills. It seemed perfect, almost too perfect. The guilt aided her from day one. She knew she was taking advantage of his feelings. He offered her the job because he cared about her, not because she was the most qualified candidate, and she'd accepted it knowing that. The salary was 3 times what she made at all her other jobs combined. It solved every financial problem she had. But it felt wrong. Still, Maya showed up that first Monday morning at the Hunt Technologies building. The lobby was all glass and steel, modern and intimidating. She felt out of place in her discount store clothes, surrounded by people in designer suits. Alexander's office was on the top floor. When she stepped out of the elevator, his previous assistant, an efficient woman named Patricia, was waiting to train her. Mr. Hunt is in a meeting, Patricia explained, leading Maya to a desk outside his office. Your job is to manage his schedule, screen his calls, and basically make sure his day runs smoothly. He's very private, doesn't like small talk, and expects things done perfectly. Maya nodded, taking mental notes. But what Patricia said and what she thought were 2 different things. Poor girl has no idea what she's gotten into. Mr. Hunt goes through assistants like tissues. This one won't last a month. Too soft. Too nice. Over the next few weeks, Maya discovered Patricia was wrong about almost everything. Yes, Alexander was demanding. Yes, he expected excellence. But he wasn't cold or difficult. He was just incredibly focused and deeply private, working close. To him every day, Maya's ability to hear his thoughts became both a blessing and a curse. She learned things about him that made her chest ache. He ate lunch alone at his desk every day because he didn't know how to do casual conversation. Board meetings stressed him out not because of the business talk, but because he felt like everyone was judging him, waiting for him to fail. At night, he went home to an enormous empty house and ate dinner by himself while working on his laptop. Alexander Hunt was one of the richest men in the city, and he was completely, utterly alone. "Is the quarterly report ready?" he asked one afternoon, not looking up from his computer screen. "Just finished. I'll email it to you now." His thoughts drifted through her mind. "She's so efficient. Picks things up faster than anyone I've ever worked with. Is she happy here? I hope she's happy." She smiled at the receptionist this morning. That was nice to see. Maya had started noticing something else too, the little things Alexander did that no one else seemed to see. He'd anonymously donated $50,000 to a children's hospital last week. He'd personally called the family of an employee who'd been in a car accident. He'd given everyone in the company a surprise bonus, not because it was required, but because he'd overheard someone in accounting talking about struggling with their mortgage. He was kind. Genuinely, deeply kind. And he hid it behind walls of professional distance because he didn't know how else to be. One evening, working late on a presentation, Maya discovered something that made her stomach drop. She was organizing files on Alexander's computer when she found a folder labeled Medical. Curious, she opened it. Inside were payment receipts, hundreds of them, all for Sunrise Care Facility, her mother's care home. Maya's hands shook as she scrolled through the documents. Alexander had been paying her mother's bills for over 2 years. Every single medical expense, every therapy session, every medication. He'd even arranged for her mom to see a specialist in New York, all expenses paid. But that wasn't all. There were property documents too. The building where Maya rented her apartment. Alexander owned it. And according to these files, he'd bought it specifically to prevent a development company from evicting all the tenants, including her. Maya sat back in her chair, her mind reeling. He hadn't just helped her. He'd been her invisible guardian angel for years, making sure she and her mother were taken care of without ever asking for recognition or thanks. "Find what you needed?" Maya jumped. Alexander stood in the doorway of his office, his jacket off and his tie loosened. His expression was neutral, but his thoughts were panicking. She knows. She found the files. Why didn't I password protect that folder? She's going to think I'm some kind of stalker. She's going to quit. She's going to hate me. "You paid for everything," Maya whispered. "My mom's care, the apartment building, all of it." Alexander's jaw tightened. "I can explain. Can you? Because this is—" Maya gestured at the screen, unable to find words. "This is insane, Alexander. You've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on me. On someone who barely remembered you existed." He flinched but didn't deny it. "You needed help. So do millions of other people. Why me? What makes me so special?" "Because you saw me." The words burst out of him raw and honest. "You saw me when I was nobody. When I was worthless. You treated me like I mattered, and no one else did that. No one." Maya stood up, her emotions a mess of gratitude and guilt and confusion. "So this is what? Repayment? Obsession?" "No." Alexander's voice was firm. He stepped into the room and Maya could hear his thoughts clearly now. They weren't panicked anymore. They were determined. "It's not obsession. I'm not some creep who's been stalking you. I've been watching over you the way you'd watch over someone you care about. Someone you never want to see struggle. But I'm a stranger to you. Are you, though?" He looked at her intently. "I know you wake up early to call your mom every morning before work. I know you give half your lunch to the homeless man outside the building. I know you stay late not because I ask you to, but because you actually care about doing good work. You're the same person you were in high school, Maya. Kind. Genuinely kind. That's rare." Maya felt tears pricking her eyes. "I don't deserve this. Any of this. Yes, you do. You deserve to not worry about money. You deserve to see your mom get the best care possible. You deserve to live somewhere safe without fear of eviction." Alexander took a breath. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Let me use some of it to help someone who actually deserves it." They stood there in silence, the weight of everything hanging between them. Maya's ability flooded her with his thoughts, and what she heard made her heart break. Please don't leave. I know this is weird. I know I've crossed lines. But please don't leave. You're the only person who makes this office feel less empty. The only person who talks to me like I'm human. Maya wiped her eyes. I need to tell you something. Something you're not going to believe. Okay. She took a deep breath. This was it. The moment of truth. The bus accident did something to me. Changed something in my brain. She paused, trying to find the right words. I can hear people's thoughts. Alexander blinked. His thoughts immediately crashed into her mind, skeptical and concerned. She hit her head pretty hard. Maybe there's still trauma we didn't catch. Should I call a doctor? You think I'm crazy, Maya said. You're wondering if there's brain damage from the accident. His eyes widened. I didn't say that. No, but you thought it. Just like you're thinking right now that maybe you should call Dr. Patterson. And you're also wondering if the stress of working here is too much for me. Alexander stared at her. How did you? I told you. I can hear thoughts. Yours especially. They come through clearer than anyone else's. Maya stepped closer. You want to know how I found those files? Because when I touched your keyboard, I could sense which folders were important to you. The ones you think about. That's impossible. Is it? You changed your whole life because of a cup of coffee and some kind words. Is reading minds really more impossible than that? Alexander was quiet for a long moment. Maya could hear his thoughts racing, trying to process, trying to decide if he believed her. Prove it, he finally said. Maya nodded. Right now you're thinking about your mother. She passed away 5 years ago. And you never got to tell her that you made it, that you became successful. You wish she could have seen this office, this life you built. Alexander's face went pale. I've never told anyone that. You're also thinking that even with all this success, you're lonely. You come to work every day and go home to an empty house, and you wonder if this is all there is. If money and success are enough. His voice came out as a whisper. Stop. And you're thinking about me. Wondering if I'll ever see you as more than a boss or a guardian angel or whatever this is. Wondering if someone like me could ever care about someone like you. Maya. Alexander's voice cracked. How long have you known? Since the day you came to the restaurant. I heard everything. Every thought. Every memory. That's how I knew about Alexander Kim. That's how I knew you'd been helping me. He sat down heavily in his chair, processing this revelation. His thoughts were a jumbled mess of shock and relief and fear. So you took this job knowing. He looked up at her, knowing how I felt. Knowing everything. Maya's guilt crashed over her. Yes, and I'm sorry. I needed the money, and I knew you'd give me the job because of your feelings, and I took advantage of that. I'm not proud of it. But you're telling me now, because I can't keep lying, not when I'm hearing your thoughts every day, not when I know how genuine you are. Maya sat down across from him. You deserve honesty. You deserve someone who isn't using you. Alexander was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. Are you using me? I was at first. I won't lie about that. But now, Maya struggled to find the words. Now I actually like working here. I like talking to you. I like seeing the person you are when you're not putting on the CEO mask. You're not just the boy from the library anymore, Alexander. You're someone worth knowing. His thoughts whispered to her, vulnerable and raw. Does she mean that? Or is she just saying it because she needs the job? I mean it, Maya said, answering his unspoken question. I know you don't believe me yet, but I mean it. Alexander looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly he smiled. It was small and uncertain but real. Okay, he said. Then let's start over. No more secrets. No more guilt. Just two people trying to figure out what this is. Maya smiled back, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. I'd like that. For the first time since the accident, her ability didn't feel like a curse. It felt like a gift, because it had shown her something rare and precious. Someone who loved without expectation. Someone who gave without needing credit. Someone who was worth taking a chance on. And maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take that chance. The next few days were awkward. Maya and Alexander tried to act normal around each other, but everything had changed. He knew she could read his thoughts. She knew he'd been in love with the memory of her for 15 years. Neither of them knew quite what to do with that information. Maya caught herself filtering through his thoughts constantly, even when she didn't mean to. It was like having a window into his soul that she couldn't close. She heard his worry that he'd scared her off, his hope that maybe they could be friends, his fear that he'd ruined everything by being too honest. On Thursday afternoon, Maya made a decision. She walked into his office without knocking. Alexander looked up from his laptop, surprised. "Is everything okay?" "No," Maya said, closing the door behind her. "This isn't working." His face fell and his thoughts immediately spiraled. "She's quitting. I knew it. I pushed too hard. I should have kept my distance." "I'm not quitting," Maya said quickly, "but we need to talk about this properly, about us." "About what this is?" Alexander leaned back in his chair, his expression guarded. "What do you want it to be?" Maya sat down across from him. "Honestly, I don't know. But I know what it can't be. It can't be you loving some memory of a girl who doesn't exist anymore, and it can't be me feeling guilty every time you do something nice. So what do? We start fresh. Completely fresh." Maya took a breath. "You don't know me, Alexander." "Not really. You know the girl from 15 years ago who gave you coffee. But I'm different now. Life changed me. I'm messier, more complicated, probably not as kind as you remember." "I disagree with that last part," he said quietly. "See? That's the problem. You've put me on this pedestal and I'm going to disappoint you eventually. I'm human. I have flaws. I get cranky and say things I don't mean. I'm terrible at remembering birthdays. I leave dishes in the sink way too long." Despite the serious conversation, Alexander smiled. "Those sound like very manageable flaws. I'm being serious. So am I." He leaned forward. "Maya, I'm not in love with a memory. Maybe I was at first. But these past few weeks working with you, I've gotten to know the real you. The one who brings coffee to the security guard every morning. The one who stayed 3 hours late to help the intern fix her presentation. The one who argues with me when she thinks I'm making a bad business decision." Maya blinked. She hadn't realized he'd noticed those things. His thoughts drifted through her mind, gentle and sincere. "She thinks I'm not seeing her. But I see everything. Every eye roll when I'm being too demanding. Every time she bites her lip when she's concentrating. Every smile she saves for when she thinks no one's looking. I see her." "You need to stop thinking such nice things," Maya said, her voice shaky. "It's making this conversation really hard." Alexander's eyes widened. "You're hearing me right now?" "Always. Your thoughts are like a radio I can't turn off. That must be exhausting." "Sometimes. But also," Maya hesitated, "it's also shown me who you really are. Not the CEO everyone else sees. The real you. The one who still feels like that scared kid in the library sometimes. The one who donates to charity anonymously because you don't want recognition. The one who's terrified of letting people get close because you've been hurt before." Alexander's jaw tightened. "That's not fair. You get to see all my weaknesses and I don't get to see any of yours." "You want to see my weaknesses?" Maya laughed, but it came out bitter. "I'm a mess, Alexander. I'm 28 and until a month ago I was working 3 jobs and still couldn't pay my bills. I forgot my mom's birthday last year because I was so exhausted. I push people away because it's easier than letting them see how much I'm struggling. And right now I'm sitting here wondering if my feelings for you are real or if I'm just grateful that someone finally sees me." The words hung in the air between them. Maya hadn't meant to say that last part, but there it was. The truth she'd been avoiding. Alexander's thoughts went very quiet, very focused. "You have feelings for me?" "I don't know. Maybe. Probably." Maya ran her hands through her hair. "But how do I know it's real? How do I know I'm not just responding to your feelings, or grateful for everything you've done, or caught up in this weird situation we're in?" "I guess you don't know," Alexander said slowly. "Same way I don't know if what I feel is real or just 15 years of built-up fantasy." They sat in silence for a moment, both grappling with the same question. How do you build something real when the foundation is already so complicated? "I have an idea," Alexander said finally. "What if we start over? Completely over? Pretend we just met. No history, no obligations, no mind reading if you can help it. Just 2 people getting to know each other. Like dating." "Like dating," he smiled nervously. "I'm told that's what normal people do. They go to dinner, talk about their interests, learn about each other gradually." Maya couldn't help but smile back. "You know I can still hear your thoughts, right? The whole no mind reading thing isn't really possible. Then don't listen. Or at least pretend you're not listening. Give me a chance to tell you things myself instead of you already knowing everything." It was a sweet thought. Even if it was impossible, But Maya found herself nodding. Okay, let's try it. But not tonight. I need some time to process all this. Tomorrow then, dinner? Tomorrow, Maya agreed. That night, alone in her apartment, Maya tried something new. She focused on turning down her ability, like adjusting the volume on a radio. It took concentration, but slowly, the constant stream of other people's thoughts faded to a whisper. Not gone completely, but manageable. She thought about Alexander, about his offer to start fresh. It was impossible, really. You can't unlearn what you already know about someone. But maybe that wasn't the point. Maybe the point was to choose to move forward despite the complicated beginning. The next evening, Alexander picked her up at 7. He was wearing jeans and a sweater, looking more nervous than she'd ever seen him. His thoughts were a jumbled mess of worry and excitement. "You look nice," he said, and his thoughts echoed, "She's beautiful. Why is she giving me a chance?" "Don't mess this up," Maya bit back a smile. "So do you. Where are we going?" "I thought we'd try that Italian place downtown. Unless you don't like Italian? We could do something else. I should have asked first." Italian is perfect. Dinner was surprisingly easy. They talked about books, about movies, about stupid things that made them laugh. Alexander told her about learning to code in the public library because he couldn't afford a computer. Maya told him about her dad, about the good years before he got sick. Every now and then, Maya caught herself listening to his thoughts and forced herself to stop. Let him tell her these things himself. Let this happen naturally. "Can I ask you something?" Alexander said over dessert. "Your ability, do you think it'll ever go away?" "I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I'll just get better at controlling it." "Does it scare you?" Maya considered the question. At first it did. All those voices, all that noise. But now, I think it might have been a gift. A strange, overwhelming gift, but a gift nonetheless. "How so?" "It showed me you," Maya said simply. "The real you. Without it, I might have just seen a rich CEO who wanted to help me out of pity or obligation. But because I could hear your thoughts, I knew the truth. I knew you were genuine." Alexander reached across the table and took her hand. His thoughts whispered to her, vulnerable and honest. "I never thought I'd have this. Someone who actually wants to know me. Someone who isn't scared off by all my issues." "We all have issues," Maya said softly. "That's what makes us human." Over the next few months, they built something real. Maya continued working as his assistant, but she also started a project of her own. She'd discovered that her ability could help people in ways she'd never imagined. She started volunteering at a crisis center, using her gift to truly hear what people couldn't say aloud. The thoughts behind their words. The pain they were hiding. Alexander supported her completely, even helping her get the proper training and licensing. He watched her find purpose in her ability, and his thoughts were full of pride. They took things slow. Coffee dates, movie nights, long walks where they talked about everything and nothing. Maya learned that Alexander was funny when he relaxed, that he loved terrible action movies, that he couldn't cook to save his life but tried anyway. Alexander learned that Maya was stubborn, fiercely independent, and had a temper when something mattered to her. He learned that she cried during sad commercials and laughed at her own jokes before she finished telling them. 6 months after that first awkward dinner, they stood together in the same library where they'd first met as teenagers. The building was older now, shabbier but still standing. "Do you remember sitting right there?" Maya asked, pointing to a table in the corner. "Every day after school," Alexander said. "It was quiet, safe, the only place I could focus. I wish I remembered more," Maya admitted. "I wish I'd known how much those small moments meant to you." Alexander pulled her close. "You know what? I'm glad you didn't. If you'd known, you might have acted different, might have been kind because you felt sorry for me. But you were kind because that's just who you are. That's what made it matter." Maya looked up at him, and for once she didn't need to read his thoughts to know what he was feeling. It was written all over his face. "I love you," he said. "Not the memory of you. Not the idea of you, just you. Messy, complicated, beautiful you." Maya smiled, tears forming in her eyes. "I love you too. Even though you think way too loud sometimes." He laughed and kissed her, and for the first time since the accident, Maya's mind was completely quiet. No thoughts, no voices. Just the two of them, finally finding home in each other. Two lonely people brought together by tragedy and kindness, and a 15-year-old promise. Proof that sometimes the smallest gestures echo the longest, and that being truly seen is the greatest gift we can give another person. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that was enough.